Revolt of 1857. The people were not happy as the British had introduced laws which were clearly meant to benefit them only and not the Indians. Many Indian rulers felt cheated because of the subsidiary alliance and the doctrine of lapse. The British wanted to collect as much wealth as they can. They forced the farmers to grow cash crops like opium and indigo. Since the British were in control of a certain area, they began implementing their oppressive colonial market policies. Silk and cotton growers were forced to sell their products to the British at very low prices. This over time had completely destroyed the Indian economy and had sent millions in poverty. First War of Independence. The revolt of 1857 marked a watershed in our colonial history. Indian rulers were unhappy with the British rule, and so were the Indian soldiers in the British army. The peasants were also unhappy as they had to pay a lot of taxes and were living in poverty. However, things became worse with the introduction of the Enfield rifle in the army. The cartridge of this rifle had a greased cover which had to be bitten off before use. It was believed that this cover was greased with the fat of cows and pigs. This hurt the religious sentiments of the Hindu and Muslim soldiers alike. The Indian soldiers refused to use these bullets and revolted against the British in 1857. This revolt of 1857 is also known as the First War of Independence. On 29th March 1857, Mangal Pandey was the first soldier to protest. As a result, he was brutally executed. This triggered his comrades and soon the other soldiers revolted. The revolt started in Meerut on 10th May 1857 and spread to Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Jhansi, etc. The soldiers marched to the Red Fort in Delhi and the last Mughal emperor, Bahadur Shah Zafar, was declared the supreme leader by the soldiers. The revolt continued for a year or so before it was crushed by the British. The revolt failed because it lacked proper leadership and was not planned properly. The British had a larger army and better weapons. Also, some Indian rulers helped the British. The prominent leaders who led the revolt were Nana Sahib, Tantia Tope, Begum Hazrat Mahal and Rani Lakshmi Bai. Rani Lakshmi Bai died in 1858 while fighting. The British refused to accept her adopted son as heir and took over the kingdom. Bahadur Shah's sons were killed and Bahadur Shah was exiled to Rangoon in Burma. The revolt of 1857 was a turning point in the history of India. It brought the end of the East India Company and power was transferred from the company to the Queen of England. Queen Victoria was declared the Empress of India. India became a British colony. The Queen appointed a viceroy to govern India on her behalf. Indian National Congress (INC). The educated Indians like lawyers, doctors and journalists began to realize that the British government wanted to keep the Indians poor and backward. They decided to form an organization that would help unite the Indians against the British policies. As a result, in 1885, Alan Octavian Hume founded the Indian National Congress with the help of some educated Indians. The first session of the Indian National Congress was held in Bombay, now Mumbai. W.C. Banerjee was the first president of the Indian National Congress. The Indian National Congress was India's first political party. Some of the major leaders of the INC were Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Dadabhai Nauroji, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Badruddin Tayebji and Surendranath Banerjee. The Indian National Congress demanded the British government that Indians be appointed to high positions and to end racial discrimination and drain of wealth. However, the British paid little heed to their demands. They continued their cruel policies. Leaders such as Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai and Bipin Chandra Pal wanted immediate action. They boycotted England-made clothes and promoted Indian clothes. They rejected English schools and promoted Indian education. Tilak wanted the common people to become a part of the movement as he felt that nothing would happen without them. As the time passed, the Indian National Congress received tremendous support from the Indians. Swadeshi Movement. The Swadeshi movement was one of the major events in the history of Indian freedom movement. It was started in 1905 against the partition of Bengal by the Viceroy of India, Lord Curzon. The Bengal leaders felt that public meetings and resolutions were not likely to have much effect on the British rulers. The use of Indian goods and the boycott of British goods were proclaimed and pledged. In many places, burning of foreign cloth was organized publicly. Men, women, and children from all sections of society took part in this movement. The movement spread from Bengal to different parts of the country. Schools were established where the traditional educational system was followed. The movement spread from Bengal to different parts of India. The British tried to suppress the movement. Crowds were attacked by the British authorities, but it did not deter them. Finally, the British agreed to bring in some reforms. But soon after the First World War broke out in 1914, the British asked the Indians to help them fight the war. The Indians helped, thinking that the British would make changes after the war and give them their freedom. But instead, the British passed strict laws to strengthen their control over India.